All right, guys, welcome back to Surviving Hollywood. I'm Johnny Ray Diaz.
I am Aaron Arnold.
My name's Austin Arnold.
And we just sat down with writer, director Gino Mckoy, who is currently promoting his first feature film, Lumina. It's a sci-fi film that was shot entirely in Morocco. And we had the pleasure of sitting down with him from Morocco. Actually, he was in Morocco while we did the interview, which we didn't know he was going to be there. Doing VFX on it, which is really cool that he took time out of his day to sit down with us. The dude he was a cool guy, total movie fan. We geeked out on Ridley Scott, a bunch of different things. I could tell this guy's going places. What you guys think?
Well, let me ask you both this. What would you rather do? Produce and direct a great movie that you're really passionate about, or meet the love of your life?
That's true.
I wouldn't want to be able to choose. I would want them both.
Johnny?
I'd want them both. And did he maybe get both?
Boom. You guys saw it. Yeah, he met the love of his life. It's now his fiance on set. At the very end of this episode, we'll get to meet her. Look forward to that.
Yeah, but I really liked, it was obvious he's a big movie fan. His piece of advice, we were going to ask him, give some advice to a new filmmaker, and he really seemed to have some great advice. He really seemed like a guy who loves making movies, and I'm kind of excited to see his movie, I'll be honest.
Yeah, we hopefully he said we invited the premiere apparently, and maybe audience test members for the film. Hey, I'm down for either. I'm
holding him to that.
Yeah, and then he really talked a lot about sort of the development hell of trying to make this movie. I would say if I was making this movie, I probably would have been like, all right, it's not going to happen, guys, because there's just like one thing after the other. So testament to him for sticking through it. And I think you guys are really going to like him. Hollywood, Hollywood, Hollywood. Tell me what it's like to live in Hollywood. Hollywood, Hollywood, Hollywood. Tell me what it's like to live a life in Hollywood. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. Hollywood. How's it going?
Good. I'm actually in Morocco right now.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
What time?
Right,
what time is it over there?
it's like 8 p.m., 8:06 p.m. over here.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
man.
I shot. This is actually it's actually the first place I shot my first movie, and completed it in January 2021. And I'm back here now because I'm doing VFX for my VFX supervisor, and I also got engaged because my girlfriend's Moroccan.
Wow.
Hey, congratulations, man.
Wait, when you say first
Thank you,
movie,
brother.
you mean Lumina?
Yeah, Lumina's my first
Lumina.
first movie as a director. Yeah, that's cool. So how is everyone?
See, we were wondering if
Great to be on the interview. Thank you for having me on this, by the way.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining us.
We were thinking the reason that you chose Morocco was because you filmed it last year because of like COVID regulations in Los Angeles to get out of the country, but you chose it because the love of your life is there.
No, actually, I met her on set. She was my assistant. Actually.
Oh man! All right, dude. So the movie brought you so many things, man. Not only like joy from making the movie, but joy in life.
Actually, yeah, she's an assistant director because she works in the Moroccan film industry. So she's worked on Homeland and Jack Ryan, a lot of big TV series. She's an assistant director. She's a second and a third AD, and she assisted me on there. We were just friends, you know what I mean? But we spent 4 months together, like 14-hour days together all the time.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, developed into something. So, we got to know each other really well because, when you're having, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with someone.
For sure. And
then off days, you're seeing them, and then she's assisting and stuff like that, and she's getting to know your family and stuff. So it's like, it was, I don't know, something happened, a spark happened, and we decided we started dating, and then, for a little bit, because I spent the extra 2 months in Morocco, and then I left, and then we kept on talking, and then we decided to get engaged, so I'm back here now.
That's so cool, man. And I feel like you're totally right, because when you're on set, you're working 15-hour days. I mean, you see somebody at their worst at that point. You know what I mean? It's like you've been on set all day. I'm exhausted. This is as bad as it's gonna get. So you already know. So good for you, man. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that, man.
And thank you for joining us from another country. I think this might be a first, right, guys? We've had somebody
from France. We've had France.
Oh, that's right. We had somebody from France.
Oh, wow, cool. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada, but I moved to LA though.
Okay, awesome. Man.
Nice shirt, by the way. I see Bitcoin on there.
Oh, you're a Bitcoiner.
Well, I was the first person in Hollywood to write about the deep web and the Bitcoin 8 years ago.
So you got in early. Nice.
Yeah, and then House of Cards, one of the guys from House of Cards read my script, and then he put it in season 2, episode 2, and said he was the first person to write about it. I'm like, no, I was the first person to write about it in Hollywood. And that was circulated throughout all the agencies and everything else like that. And I wrote a script about it, LMI, that, you know, had some really big name actors attached to at that point. And then it went into development hell. And that's what delayed the project. And then House of Cards came out with season 2, episode 2, and they talked about Bitcoin and the deep web. And I'm like, I already wrote about that like 2-3 years before that. So I was actually one of the first to write about Bitcoin.
Are you still a Bitcoin holder?
No, actually not.
Hey, it's a dip. Now's the time to.
Yeah, I'm getting more into natural resources.
Okay.
Water, land and stuff like agricultural land and stuff like that, because that's going to be a resource that's going to be very, very valuable in the future.
So explain that for a second. Like, what do you mean exactly that you're getting into natural resources? Obviously, I know what those are, but like, what does that mean exactly?
Like water, like, you know,
you mean
like fresh water, like farmable land, agricultural land and stuff like that.
Are you talking about creating like farmable land? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. With renewable energy, alternative energy that doesn't involve fossil fuels and stuff like that. I'm starting to get into more of that. So because that's going to become very valuable. Because the scarcity of it, you know, the fact of the deforestation and like everything else and ecological effect that we're having, basically, you know, as a human race on agricultural land and being able to be self-sustainable with food and water and everything else. Those are two very big resources that I've been getting into. So I was into Bitcoin for a good bit. And then I decided, you know, okay, I'm just going to jump into that because I've been doing my research, because that's something that's, you know, in the future is going to be very scarce.
Right.
The scarcity of it.
And not to sidetrack, but you're right. I mean, that's a whole different conversation, but I mean, we're basically destroying the world. So, yeah, I mean, that we can go into like animal agriculture and all these other things, but you know, that's really cool that you're looking into doing that and you're putting your energy toward that, because I think that's something that's beneficial not only for yourself, but like literally we need this, you know. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it was something that I felt that you know, looking ahead, that would be, you know, something that we needed. You know, I need, and people that I've been speaking to as well, felt that the scarcity of it was going to create such a demand that it's going to become such a valuable resource. That's what's going on in this world, ecologically speaking, environmentally speaking.
Right. That's
and speaking of scarcity, because I want to bring it back to your movie, there's only one. This is your first one. So just for the folks at home, could you give a brief synopsis of what this movie is?
It's about like a young playboy who loses the love of his life, and she disappears in a flash of light. She's abducted by aliens, and his friends get woven into his, you know, the whole conspiracy theories and the whole rabbit hole of, you know, extraterrestrials and everything else, and they go in search of her, and they end up in a lot of trouble by doing that. And I think it takes them down a road that basically they have no control over, and they end up getting themselves in a lot of trouble. That's what it is. It's an ensemble. It's an ensemble piece, but you know, the movie itself has elements of course, it's sci-fi, because I love sci-fi. You know, from when I was like 3 years old, I was watching like Star Wars and, you know, reading the books when I was like 3.5, 4 years old. And, you know, sci-fi is my genre, but also it has romance in it because there's that underlying love story because he's chasing after his love. And then you got romance, you got sci-fi, you got action in it, of course, and a bit of horror because, you know, I'm a big Predator fan and I grew up watching Predator is one of my favorite sci-fi movies outside of like Star Wars and everything else.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
Predator is so good.
And I spent a weekend with John McTiernan.
He was a director. Comparing Schwarzenegger to like some of his other movies, like I weirdly love that movie as one of his best ones. I don't know.
And you know why? I'll tell you why I love that movie. He had very little dialogue.
Yeah.
Although I loved.
Oh, really? It was like
he did. Yeah, he did.
It was action.
It was just hiding. Yeah, hiding. Trying to like. Yeah, that's true.
It's a chase movie. It's really a chase movie with
that's
like
true.
very little dialogue. It's almost like someone said to me, "It's like, what's one of your favorite chase movies of all time?" I'm like, Apocalypto. Hands down.
Dude, that movie is so underrated. I feel like that movie's so underrated.
Such an underrated movie. And I'm like, and they're asking like, what's one of your favorite? And I'm like, I loved how Mel Gibson executed the chase movie.
Yeah.
And it was a chase movie.
Yeah, you're right.
It was
a chase movie. I never thought of it like
that,
but you're right, it is.
And I loved the fact that very little dialogue and it was like such a powerful movie.
Yeah.
And it was like Apocalypto. Yeah. Just like Predator. Right. Predator had very little dialogue in it, but it was a chase movie. It was a hiding, like he's hiding, and the Predator's seeking him basically. And it was when I spoke and I sat with John McTiernan. I spent a weekend with him because he loved my first script I was talking to you about that had the Bitcoin and deep web in it. And he wanted to direct the movie. We sat down and we went through the process with him, and I was talking to him and had a really good conversation with him, man. It was a tough movie to direct because my friend who was also in Creature Effects, Todd Masters, he built the Predator suit for that movie. And Jean-Claude Van Damme was supposed to be the Predator.
Wow.
And Jean-Claude, this is a true story. And
that seems so weird.
So Jean-Claude came off of Kickboxer. And they were like, who's this Belgium guy coming off of Kickboxer that's blowing up?
Yeah.
And he went on set. He tried on the suit. He couldn't kick with the suit. And then he walked off.
He couldn't do the splits in the suit. So he's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I can't do my move.
Yeah. So Todd is telling me this entire story. So he walked off. And Todd and the rest of the team, the production team on Predator with John McTiernan was trying to replace this guy. And they replaced the guy. And the stunt actor that they replaced him with couldn't fit into the suit. So that's why they made all those adjustments to the Predator suit.
Damn.
So it was really built for someone who was Jean-Claude, and they got a bigger, taller guy that couldn't fit into the suit.
Which I think works because, Arnold is a big dude, and I feel like Jean-Claude's like kind of short and small, and I feel like that wouldn't that wouldn't really have
but
looked right.
Movie magic, right? You're going to shoot
right? I mean, I guess that's true, but yeah, the Predator not really just kind of like chasing the whole time, I think is what made it so compelling. So I think you're right, man. That's fascinating.
And the fact that the Predator hardly shows up anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So the way how they edited it, and the way how John, when he was telling me he shot it, was like, he was trying to maximize like, the mystery and the horror in it and stuff like that, and the element of surprise.
Is that what you
not having the Predator in it too much? Say again?
Is that was an influence on your movie, the hiding the Predator and like making?
Yes, definitely. My alien doesn't come. My creature doesn't really come out till the like third act, very end of the third act. It's building up to that. So I love that because you don't want to reveal the alien too quick. Because for me, what I love about what I did with my movie was you actually get really invested into the characters. And the characters, like you really, really get invested into the characters and the storyline and what they're about and everything else. And you really get invested into that. And then it's kind of like, you end up really loving what they're about and you get attached to them. So I was, something that I wanted to do was try to build on those characters and try to get everyone really invested in those characters. And when they love those guys, like when they die or if they die, you're going to be so attached to those characters. You know what I mean? So for me, it was kind of like, the real thing was, when you get into that, element of like, underground military bases, the military and all that other stuff, you get to that point and you're like, you face that creature and then you're like, you're staring down those creature eyes and you're looking at them and everything else. And like, it's really terrifying to the people because now, you're rooting for these guys because you become so invested in these characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's something for me. That's why I wanted to build up the first part of it. And the third act was kind of like, that's what people really love about it. The people that saw like the director's cut, right? So it was something for me that, I thought, I probably took a page out of John because, I spent time with John and I love his movies and stuff, right? But, also, I got a lot of influence by Ridley Scott, with the whole Alien franchise and everything else. And I think that for me, as a director, looking at other directors that you love and seeing their process and seeing how they go about their approach, I think is very important and is vital, to the whole filmmaking process because, you learn what they're doing. You come to terms with like, you learn what they're doing and then you're seeing exactly, how they go about doing it. And then you try to be like, well, you know what? I love what they did here. Let me try to do this.
And that's what I was going to ask
Let's try
you.
to improve on it.
I was going to ask you what your inspiration was for telling this story of your movie, but it sounds like a lot of it was other directors and other Alien films. Is that kind of what it was, or what inspired you to tell this specific story that you have?
I wanted to see people's psychological effect on, or how they're psychologically affected by a loved one or someone close to them being abducted by aliens. That phenomenon. So basically it's like, we've seen someone getting kidnapped, or people have experienced someone getting kidnapped, right? They've experienced, losing a child. They experienced losing a loved one, either through death or some other means, or they're just walking away, but seeing the human condition and seeing like, experiencing psychologically, how would you feel if this person disappeared? If this person was abducted? How would you feel about that? Because there is people like, with MUFON, because I had a lot of interviews with MUFON and talked to them, and they're like the alien network, and they have a bunch of ex-military guys and people that have experienced abductions and extraterrestrial phenomena. I spoke to a Marine one time and he was with a platoon of 12 guys and they experienced a spacecraft. And, since from that moment, he's been visited a number of times and had dreams and had really surreal experiences with extraterrestrials, right? And these people are normal people, no mental conditions, they're not mentally ill, no PTSD, the normal people with normal lives, but they've experienced this, right? So you can't really discredit and like not listen to what they have to say. So I said, okay, this with Lumina, I want to see how a boyfriend, how friends of that particular person, how they experience this abduction. And like what happens with that person when they experience this abduction. And, how they feel, like the depression, are they sad? Like, psychologically to do.
Cool. And how
cut out.
Yeah, Gino, you're still with us, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm with you guys. Yeah,
okay.
You see me?
Yeah, we kind of lost a little bit of it, but yeah.
And speaking of that, oh, go on, please.
I think he just froze. Yeah.
Hello?
There you are.
We hear you. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Austin.
Well, I was just going to say, and speaking on the location specifically, how challenging was it to film your first feature film entirely in Morocco?
I initially had thought about doing it in Tunisia. And then I had Malta.
Okay.
Now, the only problem was in Malta was there is no desert as such. So it was a problem for us getting those type of locations, like a deep underground military base, and like it didn't fit with my screenplay well. Then we decided Tunisia, but Tunisia did not have any stages. The size of the sound stages that we needed, that Morocco had. and Morocco has a very deep and rich history of filmmaking. So we decided to shoot it in Morocco. So I think because of their rich history, not only and also the variety of locations from desert to oceans to everything else, to the fact that I got a villa that basically looks like if you're in California. So it could double for California, it could double for Los Angeles. The
Nice.
climate is very similar to Los Angeles. And the crews have shot very big movies here. So they're very experienced. Like I told you guys, my fiance was on a number of TV series and stuff like that. And it's a very experienced crew. So I think what compelled me to shoot here is because I have such a rich history of cinema, of of shooting movies. Ridley Scott shot here, Scorsese shot here, and I think the film crews are excellent. They're on par with the film crews out in Los Angeles. So for me, it was something that I felt would really be I would have the capabilities in order to do this movie, and it created a really great opportunity for me to shoot outside of Los Angeles, that because at that time my friends were working on movies in Hollywood, and my friend was working on Will Smith's movie. He was one of the DPs on it, and he got shut down. My other friend Gabrielle, my other friend Gabrielle Berenstein, who shot Black Widow, like Black Widow's release got stopped, and I had a bunch of
Yeah.
other friends in Los Angeles that got shut down because they couldn't shoot anything.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like we came to Morocco, we shot the movie, and I just really enjoyed my time. And the crews were great, the filming locations were great, everything was really good, like the extras, everything else. And I thought that I had a really excellent team. And as I told you, I met my fiance.
That's the biggest
Yeah.
plus right there. You know what I mean? Like, not you finish your movie and you meet the love of your man. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. That was something
That wasn't in
that
the
wasn't even. You never expect that, right? Because you come from LA and like, I had like recently like broken up with my ex-girlfriend and left,
Okay.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I came over here and I was just concentrating on shooting my movie,
Right.
And interestingly enough, it's the first ever sci-fi film to be shot in its entirety in Moroccan cinema history.
Mm.
And the only sci-fi sets to be built, and the largest sci-fi sets to be built in Moroccan cinema history.
That's
So
really
we
cool.
created a history with that. And I didn't even know that until like the art directors and everyone else told me that.
Mm.
So I thought it was really, really interesting, that we got to do that and everything else. And I felt really blessed to be able to be in that position.
Right. So I'd love to hear, because this is your first feature, and I think one of the most challenging things is actually a lot of people write a movie, but then they're like, how do I even go about making it? I need money, right? So for your first feature film, what was the process for you like from going from development and all of a sudden you're getting it greenlit and you're getting funding and all that kind of stuff? What was that like?
Well, for like so the whole thing was I went to my uncle's house in Florida. I had just went through like pure development hell on LMI, my bigger feature, where I had a lot of A-list actors attached.
Mm.
And my lead at that point in time, I gotten pregnant, and then the whole project got delayed. And then I went to Florida, and I was kind of like, a little depressed by the movie not going and stuff like that at that point in time. And then I wrote it in 7 days. And then
Wow.
for the next
Okay.
year and a half, I started really developing the movie and everything else. And it got to a point where my mom was a director of the bank in Canada and stuff like that, and she had a lot of friends that are investors, and she dealt in that world of investments and finance. And she got her good friend, our friend David Seychelles, who was also a producer on the movie, to come on board and finance the movie and stuff like that, and do financing for a slate of films that we're working on right now.
Mm.
And it was tough. I mean, going through that process, as an indie filmmaker, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not easy to get financing for a movie. It's not easy to, get to this stage where you're like developing your film and like, getting financing, getting cast attached. It's something very, very difficult, as you know. And everyone knows that in LA because, we go through the whole process, we go through the whole ringer and stuff. And, the funny thing is that our story is such a unique story because, my friend David, who's also produced on the project, and is my mom's good friend for like 25 years, who's one of the investors and came on board to help my mom finance this film and finance the slate of films that we're doing. He before he came out, like he was flying out because he flies his own prop planes. He was flying out to see us in LA before we came out to Morocco to shoot the movie. And upon takeoff in Colorado, his plane crashed.
Oh my God. Wow.
And he jumped out of his plane. A third of his body was burnt. He escaped with his life. He almost died. And it was like
Wow.
crazy.
That's
so like,
insane.
you almost, yeah. So they airlifted him to like, the University of Colorado Hospital and stuff. And he was there and, we recovered. We were with him for like 2 weeks. And yeah, it was just crazy. And after that, we went to Morocco, and my DP, because we delayed, he dropped off the day before I was supposed to go to Morocco.
Whoa.
So I went to Morocco without a DP. I went with my production designer and my lead accountant and my executive assistant, myself, my mom, my dad. My dad's also producer on the project. David flew back to Canada because he was in the hospital there because, they took him private jet back to Toronto to recuperate because he had to recover because of the burns. Right. A third of his body was burnt, right?
So, oh man, that's crazy.
And we went into production without a DP. I was in pre-production.
Were you just hoping to find somebody down there?
Yeah, but then I realized I got a call from an agent, in London who we knew. And she represented Larry Smith. And Larry came on board. And Larry, as you know, is famous for working with Stanley Kubrick.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so Larry worked with Stanley Kubrick a number of times. And so Larry came on board, and then, we met up with a production company here in Morocco, and the production company was unscrupulous. So we ended up
So it actually ended up working out better.
No, it was an unscrupulous production company.
Oh, I got you.
So they were underhanded. They were really underhanded. And, we ended up losing money, and our project got delayed by like 7-8 weeks during COVID, during testing. And
were all the actors there waiting? Were all the actors there waiting
while the actors were here? So I'm going to tell you the whole story.
Yeah.
So it's like they were very unscrupulous. They ended up trying to take money and trying to rip us off, basically, by doing a bunch of things that were like, totally illegal in film production. And we had to basically come out of that contract. And in Morocco, once you sign with a producer, that producer actually has to say that he's signing off, that he's not going to work with you in order for you to engage another producer. Mm. That's part of the CCM. That's part of the cinematography Moroccan, law. Okay. For the film society here in Morocco.
Yeah.
So we actually had to pay him to leave the project.
Wow.
And stuff like that. And our actors at that point in time, the actors I had attached, ended up walking off the project during 2 to 3 weeks of production. So I lost all my actors.
Man.
And we had escrowed all the money. We paid them. And then we realized that they used that just to try to take money and walk away without performing. And my casting director, Valerie McCaffrey, who used to be the head of casting for Warner Brothers and Universal, she was very upset. My attorneys were very upset because he used to be the head of legal for New Line. First time they've ever seen that in history. In their history of working in the film industry, all the actors walked off and tried to take our money. Try to sabotage the project. And we realized one of the actors was really jealous of the fact that I was directing and he wanted to come on as a producer and talking to my lead accountant. And then basically, we didn't entertain that idea. So we ended up doing like a coup. So it was kind of like, wildcat strike.
You got everyone together. Yeah. That's wild, man.
And they blamed it on COVID. And the funny thing was we had all the protocol in place and they blamed it on COVID, which we went to SAG. And then, we told SAG and we proved to SAG everything was fine and all that stuff, but SAG still sided with that unscrupulous actor. Mm. And I had to recast the entire movie in a week and a half.
Holy shit, dude.
And bring on new producers.
We lost him.
So I had to bring on producers within 2 weeks of all of that happening. Are you guys hearing me right now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, you cut off for a second, but we heard you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, signal sometimes goes in and out.
I mean, you're in Morocco, so it's okay.
Yeah. So then we went into production, and it went into production, and we decided to shoot through the Christmas. So Larry and my entire camera team from the UK went back for vacation, of course, and they were coming back on January 2nd after like New Year's and after Christmas and stuff. And then the second strain happened in the UK. So they got banned from coming back to Morocco, and I lost my entire camera team from the UK. First AC, everybody. First AC.
How did you keep it together? Were you kind of like, you know what, this movie's just not gonna happen. Let's move on. Was that thinking that?
God.
Yeah.
No, part of me was thinking that sometimes, but thank God that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, honestly speaking, I'm like, God is with me because I'm a believer. And I'm like, you know what? I can't give up faith, man, because I've come this far. I've gone through, I've survived Hollywood basically with people stealing my IP, discrimination, all this stuff, you know what I mean? And,
yeah.
To get to this point, to do my first movie, it's the worst feeling when and I'll tell you this, if you can get over seeing your content on the screen, making over $100 million, and it's your stuff that they stole in Hollywood, you could definitely get over stuff like this.
Interesting.
I don't think that's a bigger punch to the gut, seeing your content on screen and you knew you wrote that.
Yeah, someone
and
taking
your
it as
attorneys.
theirs.
Yeah,
That's
and your
crazy.
attorneys are telling you, if you sue these people, you're going to get blacklisted in the industry. So it's kind of like, that if you can get over that, I think you can get over this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, we got put through, it was like a baptism of fire, brother. And I was like, we end up, and then we're like, okay, so now I got to replace my DP. So luckily enough, my friend Gabrielle Beristain, who is a DP on Black Widow right now for Marvel, that's coming out, soon.
Yeah.
I think it probably even came out. I don't know. I'm in Morocco right now, so I don't know what's coming out.
I don't think it's out yet. No.
Yeah. So Gabrielle talked to me. He's like, yo, I'm shooting a project with Ron Perlman. I can't come out to Morocco. I would love to because a very good friend of mine. He's like, I'm sending my friend Rachel Gallego. She works at Marvel. She's a female DP that's really up and coming. She came over. She was shooting throughout the entire Christmas, and then she had to end up basically finishing the movie because Larry could not come back. Because all UK travelers were banned from coming to Morocco or anywhere else in Europe because the second strain of COVID happened.
Right.
And then I got food poisoning. And then on top of that, when our first cast had left, I had food poisoning for 12 days.
Jeez, dude.
So it was like one thing to the next, and I was like, wow, it can't get any worse than this, brother.
But it turned out to be the best movie you ever made, though, right?
Yeah,
right?
It was.
There we go. You beat the odds.
It was like everyone that watches the end, and then I shot the movie. I finished. I stayed for a little bit. I went back to LA and stuff like that. Then I decided I'm coming back, of course, because I got engaged to my girlfriend, my now fiance, and it was truly a blessing. You know what I mean? And for me, it was kind of like in the director's cut. My friend Tom Noble, who's an Academy Award winner, who did Red, who did Witness, he cut a lot of big films. He's my editor on this film. We went in the cutting room thinking we're going to do 8 weeks of the director's cut. The director's cut was finished in 6 days.
Wow.
Whoa.
So he had a editor's rough cut finished in about a week and a half after, because he was cutting while I was shooting during production, during principal photography.
Yeah.
And I came back. We went into Technicolor. We're in the editorial suites in Hollywood in Technicolor, off of Seward. I know you guys probably know where that is.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was there, and we cut for 6 days. And on the third day, we finished like 80-something minutes. And Tom was like, "This is unheard of." He's like, "I've cut films for over 30 years or more, and I've never seen anything like this." We cut the film in 6 days. At the ending of 6 days, he told me, he's like, "G, this is what," he's like, you're exactly like Ridley Scott in cutting." I'm like, wow, I was so humbled by that. And I'm like, what? Because he worked with Ridley.
That's a great comparison, man.
Yeah, because he was the editor on Thelma and Louise.
Thelma and Louise,
yeah. So he's like, I cut just like Ridley. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, and I was humbled by it. He's like, well, Ridley remembers every shot, every take, every scene, everything that happens. He's like, you're exactly the same, because I can tell you what happens in that scene. I can tell you what scene it is. I can tell you what's take. That's how I am. He's like, Ridley's the exactly the same. You know, so I was like, wow, you know what I mean? That was a great compliment to me, because that's one of the guys I grew up basically loving and you know, admiring as a director, you know? So outside of George Lucas, of course, for like Star Wars and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we did that. And now I'm doing post VFX, I'm doing sound, and, you know, we're going to be doing, you know, the audience testing. I'm going to do some, you know, screenings for like the studios and stuff. We're going to see who picks it up. Could be Netflix, could be anybody. So
that's
I'm
what I was
leaving my
gonna
options open.
That's what I was gonna ask you next is you know, possible release date. It sounds like you're still kind of working out distribution and all that kind of stuff.
Fall
right?
2021. I think fall of this year, brother. I think so. Fall or winter.
That's
I think
not that far away.
That's like a, yeah, I know, because like we're almost done VFX, and you know, my score is almost complete, and like you know, sound is gonna take about 5 to 6 weeks, and then after that we're good. So I want to do my color grading and do my fine cut, and we're ready to go.
And let me ask you this: in our final few minutes of the podcast, this is like a question we like to just ask, get perspective from many different filmmakers that come on the podcast. If you could give yourself, your younger self, when you're first starting filmmaking, a piece of advice, what would you say?
Research everything. Research everything. Research cinematography, research directing, research the entire process on the film set, research the business side of it in terms of distribution, research post-production. Like research everything to death. Know exactly what every facet of the industry, every facet of making a film, and every department is doing. Because when you know that, you know exactly how to cut corners, how to do things faster, efficiency. Like, you know, with me, I shot with 3 cameras in this film, right? So like, you know, I was getting different takes, different, like, you know, I was shooting a butterfly sometimes, and we're like, you know, getting different reactions of that and everything else. So and that's from me studying and researching everything in the industry. So for me, you got to know more than the other person in front of you. So if you know more than the other person in front of you, then you're going to do well. So that's why you like, you know, for me, it's kind of like research everything to death before you get into it. So you know what's going on, you know exactly what you're doing, and that's going to help you, and especially your career in terms of like, you know, directing, filmmaking, because, you know, it's important that you know everything that you're doing, like from every department, because every department is important.
Yeah.
You know, the camera department is important, editing, assistant directors, everyone is important, lighting, grip, everything. So for me, and also the post process, and also pre-production and financing and distribution, what the distributors want, you know, how to get financing, what they look for, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. Like what's commercial, what's not commercial, you know, what's an art house film? What do you need to do when you're taking that to like, you know, a festival? How to take it to a festival? You know, what to do while you're at a festival? Like, you know, how to do audience testing, like, you know, and stuff like that. How to pitch it to like investors, how to pitch it to people that are distributors, and basically what they're looking for, you know, to make it more feasible for them, that they're actually going to buy into your film. So what I say is like, you know, because I went to University of Toronto, and University of Toronto is all research. Most of my subjects, most of my stuff that I did there, basically my courses in UFT, was all research. So for me, research everything to know exactly what you're doing, because that's the only way when you go into it, you know what I mean, you're going to be prepared. And even then you're not prepared, because like, you know, you're going to come across experiences on set and everything else that you got to deal with, that you got to, you know, you got to improvise.
Your cast is going to have a coup.
Yeah, your cast may have a coup. You know,
you were probably
like
prepared
that,
for that. So it's like, I didn't learn this in school.
You can never prepare for that, because it's never happened.
Right.
You know, it's fun. It's never happened. You know, that's why I know like my publicist is like doing like a big article with that, that's going to be coming out, that's going to talk about that, because it's never happened in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, I made history there too, but I mean, it's not even good history. Like bad history, but you know what I mean? But I guess that's part of my journey, right? So, I mean, I got to thank God for like my good and my bad, you know what I mean? Like the obstacles and like everything that we went through to get to here. But I mean, for me, like, I think that's what I would advise to young filmmakers. Just know everything about the industry. Research everything. Don't take anything for granted, and always be open. You know, everyone on set is important.
Yeah,
down to the
definitely.
caterers and everyone else.
For sure. Yeah.
So
That's all. That's
that's
always
how
a
you
big
make.
thing.
Because it takes a village, right? That's what we
Yeah.
say in LA.
Right.
You know, so I mean, it takes a village, it takes a community to make a film, and you know, young filmmakers need to understand that and never take that for granted.
Yeah.
That anyone on set is important. Everyone is important on set because you need everyone to make this film. That's the only way you're going to get this film. And you know, I have to thank the Moroccan crew and everyone else that helped me with this. You know, David, my mom, my dad. You know, my fiance who was there for me as well too. You know, for like, you know, coming through and like helping me make this movie.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would always advise young filmmakers to always be very educated about what you're doing and to know everything that you're going into in terms of the film industry. So,
well, I'm definitely excited to see this movie. So if you need a, you know,
thank you, brother.
audience test member, I'm volunteering.
Well, yeah.
You know
what? I'd
love to see a cut of it.
I'm gonna send it to you guys.
I honestly, I'd love to see it because the movie you've hyped up the movie so much. It sounds really cool. Everything you went through. I mean, to have a finished product like that's filmmaking, man. So I would love an opportunity to see
it's
it.
Like
you know?
It's like a story. It's a story to be told because, you know, I shot it during the height of COVID.
Right.
And we made it. And
Right.
so many movies from Hollywood got shot down in COVID.
Right.
And like, for us to like start and finish a movie during COVID and like deliver a Hollywood feature, independent feature. It wasn't even a studio feature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At that point in time was an accomplishment, I would say.
Yeah.
And Gino, where can our audience stay in tune, keep up with you, keep up with the movie?
Okay, yeah. You can check me on IG, Gino Mckoy, GinoMckoy. Facebook is the same thing, Gino McCoy. You can also check me on LuminaMovie.com, which is our website for the movie. That's basically has a countdown stuff. There's going to be stuff up on there once we distribute the movie and everything else. And yeah, I'll invite you guys to the premiere, man, and then let you.
Dude, I
let
love
you be the or I'm gonna
be
do some
there.
audience.
Hey, one or the other. I mean, the premiere sounds really fun, but I'm also willing to be an audience member too. So
you guys.
Yeah, I'd be down for either. So yeah,
I'll do some audience testing on both of you, so both of you see how you guys like the movie. Hopefully,
that's fine. Hey, I'm up for it, man. I love to watch movies, so it'd be good. It'd be a treat. Definitely appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No